Cheers.
Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Rohini here.
And Sage.
Today we're going to be talking about our barn build, our home build, our first ever home on our land here in Tennessee. So stay tuned for all of the juicy details on how much it cost, if we would do it again, what we regret.
Recommendations, stuff like that. A lot of lessons learned. I wouldn't say a lot of mistakes made, but a lot of mistakes avoided that could definitely be costly. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well.
I'm gonna share what we learned with y'all, so hopefully if you want to do this too, you can have an even easier time than we did. Just give a bit of context. We left Austin, Texas about a year ago. We purchased this land here in Tennessee. It's about 90 acres and there's no buildings on it when we bought it. And Sage really built this house from scratch. Our goal here is to be self-sufficient, to live off the land, to ranch, have animals, have a garden, to eventually have a retreat center and places to stay. So we have a really big vision with this place, and this barn is the first step. In this video, we're going to be answering a lot of questions that y'all asked on Instagram. Mostly Sage will be answering them because he knows he's the one who did it. Let's just get right into the questions. One question we got quite a bit was, where did we buy this kit? This is a barn kit, So
we went with a company out of Nebraska called Legacy Post and Beam. I did see a question around like what was it from Legacy, and it was the Armstrong kit. So we can link it in the description if you want to check it out. But we had a phenomenal experience with Legacy Post and Beams. I would say with a kit like this, it's not super DIY / beginner friendly. So just keep that in mind if you do decide to work with them. Their kits are really designed for contractors and construction crews. So we were thinking when we made the decision to build a barn dominium is it would give us both a place to live on the property and also like work, so like have a shop so we can work on projects. So when we're putting in infrastructure for animals, infrastructure for gardens, and like we're going to be building some cabins here very soon, and then eventually our house up the hills.
So a few things he just said in that explanation is we are going to be building another house. This isn't our permanent house on the land. That was asked a couple times. We're planning to build in the back of the property in a very secluded, quiet area. If you can hear, we're near the road here. So we want to build in the back of the property, and it's going to be bigger because we're going to have more kids.
Well, the reason why we built down here not only was because we want to have a bigger house up there, but also the cost to build up there is significantly higher because there was no power. There's septic down here. There already was power, and then we have to put in a road and water, and so there's a handful of things. So we saved around like $50,000-$60,000 by building right here.
Did you have any construction experience going into this? That was also asked.
My construction experience is very limited before this before this project. So I grew up around it. My neighbor was a pro builder. My uncle is a very good builder. My dad's a very good amateur carpenter, and we were always building things on the farm that I grew up on. So I just kind of been around it a lot. And then when I was in the military, we did a little bit of like engineering work, so some framing, and then I did work construction in high school for a year. So not a lot. I've never built a house from foundation to finish, but I guess I knew how to use the tools. That's, I guess, the way to put it. And YouTube. That's YouTube and friends and family is how I built this.
He taught himself. I mean, he learned it himself.
Yeah, and then I would just call friends that have been in construction or family that's built it. That's
like, what would you do here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I would overhear him listening to YouTube videos in the other room. Like that day he had to install whatever it was, and then that morning he'd be watching like a bunch of videos on how to do it. So
yeah, that was a fun way to do it.
It's pretty amazing that you could do that.
Yeah.
What were some unexpected hiccups or things that you wish you would have known before starting? I guess those are two different questions.
I guess the only couple hiccups we had was the foundation. The crew that did the foundation didn't read the plans correctly, so they put the footings in the wrong place. So we had to actually expand the pad. So we ended up having to put a porch on it so water didn't come into the building. That, and we didn't order the insulation early enough because it was back ordered, and that delayed our project and our move-in by 2 months.
Question we got a lot is, how do you start this process? What is the whole process like? From buying the land, getting a loan or financing it, and then building permits and all of that. So if you want to go over that.
Sure. So I guess that's kind of like a multi-part question. So I guess obviously starting with the land is going to be number one. I would say get a good sense of like what you want to do. Do you want to renovate a house to how you want it, or do you want to start from scratch? What we did is we sort of put together a list of things that we wanted. So we wanted water, we wanted a certain amount of acreage, you wanted it within 20 minutes of like a good town, things like that. And then we just started looking. And so what I'd recommend is do something like that and then expand your search outside of like wherever you are. Like maybe look at a state nearby to you. And that's sort of what we did.
And just get clear on what's most important to you of those things. Like the land was most important to us, so we were willing to sacrifice in other areas. But if, the house is most important to you, that's already existing, you don't have to do much to it, or that it's in a town that you really like, but maybe it's not that big, or, whatever, just zoom in on what you actually want to prioritize. And then I feel like everything else falls into place.
Yeah, so if you're gonna buy land, raw land, there are some things you need to know. One is typically the bank is gonna require 15 to 20% down, sometimes even more. That's just because of the risk around it. But with buying, if there's a house on the property, like anywhere from like 5 to 10%. So that's something to keep in mind, is like, that definitely made it a little bit more of a financial strain for us, is like we had to put down 20% on the land and then immediately cash finance the build. So that was definitely a lot. And we can talk about the finances here in a second, but that is something to consider. And then I would just say, pay attention to the permitting before you buy anything. Make sure that you can do what you want in the county.
And also get pre-approved for...
Oh, if you're gonna start the land search or house search, yeah, absolutely get pre-approved so you know exactly how much you can get. To start talking about costs a little bit, the kit from Legacy was $102,000, and I won't talk too much about like what was included in that because it's a little more like construction detailed, but it's basically the shell and you have to put the roof on and then finish it out inside. The final cost was $236,000, and that doesn't include my labor. So I did get 2 guys for like 3 months, just some local guys to help me. They weren't skilled carpenters, but I did pay them. It was like around $11,000 for 3 months, which is really good. Yeah, so the way that we financed this, and I'll explain how we did it, and then I'd explain the options that I would recommend that you look at. For context, I had a business deal go very south last year where, long story short, somebody owed me a lot of money. They didn't pay me that money, and so instead of going through a lengthy lawsuit, I just settled for less. And so a lot less. If you know anything about like my business situation, it's not my previous business partner with SERP, so it's not that. Anyway, so our budget went from having all of the cash to fund the entire project to having like 40% of the cash. So what we ended up doing is we took out a line of credit, and that basically paid for the kit. And then we used the rest of the line of credit and the cash flow.
We had to pay back within a year.
Yeah, so we did a line of credit and paid for the rest with income, basically, which is like really stressful to do that way.
It was a very stressful way to do it because we owed the money to pay back for the line of credit within a year and then max out the credit cards to fund.
Right, because one thing that you're gonna find when you're building is like, if you have all the money up front, which is why I recommend you look into a construction loan if you can afford it.
Get-go.
Yeah, don't get yourself in trouble, but it'll allow you to have the cash to go out and buy everything that you need, and so that you're sitting on materials, so that you're not in a situation that we got into a couple times where we were waiting for material to arrive. Because if you do get in that situation, then your build gets delayed, and that has costs right there as well. So
or waiting for money for the next month's paycheck, so you have to pause construction to wait to get paid, and then it just delays and makes everything take a lot longer, which is also fine. It just depends on what your timeline is.
Yeah, so the two options I would recommend is if you can afford to do a construction loan and that's something you want to do, like I would recommend doing it, but giving yourself a longer time horizon. Just pay attention to the interest, don't get wrecked. And then like we did 12 months, I'd recommend a minimum of 3 years. And then option 2 is going to be if you just self-finance it, which I know a lot of people are like, they promote doing that. I think it's awesome, totally fine. It's just gonna take you longer to finish the build because you're gonna just have to wait as money comes in.
Did we hire any subcontractors?
So the work that was subcontracted out was the foundation, the rough-in for the plumbing, the rough-in for the electrical, and sheetrockers. That was it. So all of the plumbing trim out, I did. The electrical trim out, I did, and the electrician did. It was kind of like he included some of it. And then everything else, the trim, the finish work, the framing, the roof.
How much was the plumbing and the
Foundation was $21,000. The electrical was $18,000 for the work, and then $3,500 for the pole. Plumbing was like $5,500 for the rough-in, and then $2,500 to do the water and septic hookup. And then sheetrockers were $4,500, not including $1,800 in materials.
We were just talking about sheetrock, hiring people to do that. Highly recommend.
Highly recommend you, because it's something you're gonna look at all the time. They're super pro at it.
It's very hard to get the technique
hard to
down.
do. Yeah,
it's not fun. Installation was super easy and chill, but sheetrock, very glad that.
We did the installation ourselves. I did see somebody say is there a non-toxic option, so we went with rock wool, which is a natural fiber. And we have 2x6 framing, so that's why I got back ordered, because 2x6 is not very popular in the south. It's code up in the north, but so that was a whole thing. But I love rock wool. Like this thing stays cool, it stays warm when you want it to. It's very well insulated.
A couple people asked how were we even able to afford this in the first place. We are both pretty young. It looks all very glamorous, so how are we able to do this?
Business. So I started a business I started learning digital marketing back in 2016, but I started a business in 2019 and basically just been living way below our means, I guess you could say. We've been very good at saving and investing, and that allowed us to buy the property and then immediately start building. Are
we fully off grid?
Oh, good question. No, we're not. So being off grid is definitely a goal of both of ours. So we have electric and water.
We're not off grid at all. Well, I suppose Wi-Fi was the only thing that's off grid.
We have satellite Wi-Fi.
We have satellite Wi-Fi.
Starlink.
Thanks to.
And we have propane.
Thanks to Elon.
We don't make our own propane though. So the goal is to get a well. That should have happened.
We wanted
many
to do that
months
initially,
ago.
But the guy.
The well digger man is way behind schedule. So that should happen in the next month or so. Electricity will probably be the last thing to happen, because solar is expensive and electricity in Tennessee is very cheap. So it just doesn't make sense from that perspective right now.
But eventually we would like to be, if we
100%.
wanted to, 100% self-sustaining on the land. Like, most of our food from the land, our meat from the land, milk. We just got cows, so that's one step closer.
It's definitely happening.
Yeah, electric, definitely do solar. My brother's bank, Atmos, shout out Atmos, they have solar loans, so we'll be.
Once they open up in Tennessee, we'll probably get one through them.
Doing it through them. But they're open in other states, so if you want to look into solar, I'll link them down below. How long do you think we will live in this barn, this structure?
3 years, that's what I'm anticipating. So we did make some on-the-fly sort of changes. We added a loft and another bedroom downstairs. So that definitely will pay off.
So it's 2 bedroom.
It's 2 bedroom plus a loft.
that is all of the questions. Hopefully we answered the burning questions that you had. There are a lot of details that go into this, so hopefully this is helpful.
Rahini said keep it light on the construction details, so I did. I tried to.
Sage is going to be making more content himself that will go more into depth on these things.
That's the plan, yes.
Because I assume the majority of my audience doesn't want to know like the diameter of the post and all of that kind of stuff and what brand of screw. But hey, I might be wrong.
I'm not going to talk about that.
Might be wrong. But anyway, I just wanted to say for anyone watching who wants to do this and wants to live this lifestyle out in the country, having land, having a farm, building your own house, becoming self-sufficient, I just really encourage you to do it. And although we went really big, that's kind of just what we tend to do, not even meaning to all the time, but you can do it with a lot less money and no experience, and you know, you can move to a new place and buy 2 acres and get the animals and just...
I think it's equally as rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we have plenty of friends who are doing it...
smaller scale.
Yeah, smaller scale. So don't get discouraged if you hear like, oh, well, he had a multi-million-dollar business and it was $240,000. Like you really don't need that, definitely.
No.
You can make it work, and I think just setting your mind on what you want, envisioning it, getting clear about it, writing it down, and just being open to like letting the idea take you somewhere. Maybe it'll take you to a different state or a different county or a little farther away from your family, or you know, whatever it is. But it's all possible. So just keep the dream alive, because it's definitely worth it. And I think this lifestyle is the future. It's the past, it's also the future. And I think that the more people doing this, the better, because it's very rewarding and it's good for the planet and good for the soul. And
yeah, it's just, we want more people doing this.
And hopefully in the next few years we'll be set up so we can invite you guys, or invite people who want to do this to come and learn and help and just build community. That's what we
so
really
we'll
want.
be investing in a lot of infrastructure on the property so that we can facilitate those things.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
We're gonna be, Sage's gonna be working on some cabins on the land this year.
Yep.
So eventually, not that far from now, you'll be able to come stay, come visit if you want to. Make sure you have a good partner.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you going into this.
Thank you for all the support in the back.
It's the most stressful year of our lives by far. But we made it, and it's so worth it.
So worth it. Absolutely.
Now we have a baby in a house, and they both took 9 months.
Yeah.
Wouldn't recommend doing it at the same time.
And selling the business. That
And
also
sold
took 9 months.
The business. Don't recommend doing those at the
We
same
had the
time.
trifecta in 2023.
Smooth sailing from here on out.
I had a couple of people ask me some more detailed questions on Instagram. If you have more and you want, like, I'm happy to dive deeper on any of the questions that you guys had. I had a lot of support, at least via the phone, of people that have done this before, where I could ask them questions, and it was a complete game changer because it gave me the confidence to just do it. So if I can do that in a small way for anyone, like, please just
Is
hit me
Instagram
up.
the best way to do that?
Yeah, right now Instagram, I'm not super
At
active,
SageMock.
but
He's gonna be.
I'm planning on
Watch
being
out.
more active. That's the goal.
Yeah. Building content coming soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really hope this was helpful, and we're just so grateful to be able to share this and go on this journey, and we've learned a lot. It's just the beginning, so really appreciate your support and your excitement, and thanks
Thanks so much.
Yeah, see you soon.
Bye.